After the family dinner, we found ourselves alone. And then our son spoke up. A single sentence can linger in your thoughts for days, even weeks, which is quite peculiar. That evening, following the family dinner, as the laughter subsided and silence enveloped the house, Larry turned to me with a gaze that seemed to betray the essence of the boy I had nurtured. There was an intensity in them, not inappropriate, but profound probing, as if he were truly seeing me for the first time. He spoke just a few words, yet they have been resonating in my mind ever since. Before I share the details of what transpired, I would like to know, from which city are you tuning into us this evening? Please record your thoughts in the comments section. I enjoy discovering the various locations from which everyone is connecting. Allow me to transport you to that evening. It was one of those exceptional family dinners where everyone truly attended. My sister presented her renowned casserole. My brother recounted the same jokes he has been sharing for 2 decades. And the dining room radiated warmth with the flickering glow of candles adorning the table. The sound of plates clinking, glasses shimmering in the light, and the soothing murmur of overlapping voices created an inviting atmosphere. Larry had exhibited a notable decrease in his usual vocal presence. He doesn't seek to engage with the clamor of the crowd, yet I caught him stealing glances in my direction on multiple occasions. Initially, I regarded it with indifference. Perhaps he simply required additional potatoes to be handed over, or perhaps he was adrift in his own reflections. However, it extended beyond mere glances. His expression held a gentle softness, one that conveyed a sense of observation and attentiveness, as if he were quietly absorbing and cherishing the moment. As the final dish was cleared and the chairs began to slide back, the family commenced their gradual departure. One by one, coats were donned, farewells were exchanged, and the door closed softly behind each departing figure. I lingered in the kitchen, arranging plates, rinsing glasses, allowing the residual warmth of the evening to envelop me. It was at that moment I understood we were by ourselves. The house, once brimming with voices, now lay in silence, allowing me to discern the gentle hum of the surroundings and the soft ticking of the clock positioned above the stove. Larry leaned against the doorway, hands tucked into his pockets, observing me with that same inscrutable expression he had during dinner. It is truly pleasant to be present in this moment. The manner in which he articulated his words, deliberate and unhurried, compelled me to stop and reflect. I focused on the ravi in my hand, drawing circles on the wood. Yet I sensed his presence behind me, calm and unwavering. Initially, our conversation revolved around minor details. The outcome of the roast, the unseasonably warm weather for late autumn, and my sister's unwavering tendency to bring an excessive amount of food. Yet beneath our words, there existed a profound stillness, an unvoiced gravity that lingered in the space between us. As I finally turned to confront him, he stood so close that I could discern the subtle crease near his left eyebrow, the telltale sign of his deep contemplation. "You appeared different this evening," he remarked unexpectedly. The remark took me by surprise. Distinct. I reiterated, making an effort to maintain a cheerful tone. Not in a negative sense, simply, I can't quite put my finger on it, but more joyful. "You appeared radiant," I chuckled quietly, primarily to occupy the silence rather than out of amusement. It must have been the wine. "Perhaps," he remarked, yet the expression in his eyes suggested disbelief. I occupied myself with pouring the final remnants of the yin into 2 glasses, one designated for him and the other for myself. We found ourselves once more at the table, the very one that had previously been bustling with activity. The space between us now felt vast, capturing every sound and every subtle movement. The candle at the center had almost completely melted, its wax accumulating around the base. The shadows played across his face, reflecting in his eyes in a manner that rendered them warmer and more inviting. Our conversation deepened as we explored his work, the aspirations he longed to pursue, and the swift passage of the years that seemed to elude him. Eventually, it became clear that our conversation extended beyond mere schedules or hobbies. We engaged in a conversation about life and the things that hold significance. In the midst of that conversation, I sensed a subtle shift in the walls I had constructed over the years. He truly engaged with me in a manner that made me feel acknowledged. Beyond her role as a mother and the hostess of yet another family dinner, she is a woman with her own thoughts, dreams, and unspoken fears. As the clock chimed gently from the living room, I looked over, taken aback by the late hour. "You should probably get going," I said, even though a part of me wished for the night to linger a little longer. Rather than standing, Larry leaned forward, placing his arms on the table, his voice calm yet firm. "That is the point," he made. "I am not prepared to depart at this time." It was a straightforward remark, yet it struck me profoundly, creating ripples in the calm surface of my thoughts in ways I had not anticipated. His tone conveyed no urgency or pressure, only sincerity. It occurred to me just how uncommon that level of honesty had become in my life. I gazed at him for an extended moment, seeking the appropriate reply, but before I could articulate my thoughts, he interjected with another remark. The phrases that would echo in my thoughts for nights to come, the phrases that would transform my perception of him completely. "I'm not ready to leave yet," he said, and the stillness of the kitchen appeared to draw closer, as if it were holding its breath alongside me, anticipating what would come next. The candle between us had diminished to a hollow of aged wax, the small flame swaying left, then right, as if it were attuned to something beyond. I carefully folded the dish towel and placed it on the chair next to me, as my hands began to tremble slightly, reminiscent of how they react when an emotion surfaces before the words to articulate it come to mind. "Very well," I responded. "So, shall we remain?" He acknowledged with a nod, yet remained still. His gaze was calm and tender, holding an unidentifiable essence. For a brief moment, I contemplated whether he was in need of financial assistance or if an incident at work had occurred that he preferred to keep private in the presence of others. Yet, what I observed in his expression was not trouble. It was a profound tenderness, laden with the unexpressed weight that accumulates when left unvoiced for an extended period. "Mum," Larry began, and the words settled in the room gently, like a hand resting on my shoulder. "I must share something that has been long overdue." The clock ticked steadily. The refrigerator emitted a soft hum. The years between us aligned like photographs in a shoebox. School plays, lost teeth, broken bikes, and the time he caught the flu, resting on the couch while I prepared soup and kept the television at a gentle volume. In every image, I observed myself in motion, adjusting, refining, and progressing. I found myself wishing, if only for a moment, that I had taken my time, that I had mastered the art of embracing a feeling as one would savor a sunset, not seeking to alter it, merely observing its hues. This has been in my possession. Not since Dad passed away, he remarked, since the house became too silent and you began handling everything by yourself. I resolved to be strong, which meant refraining from expressing anything that might increase your burden. However, I believe the silence contributed even more. He inhaled deeply and looked down at his hands, strong, capable hands, reminiscent of his father's. I swallowed, making a conscious effort to keep my eyes from revealing my true feelings. What is not? I inquired. The sentiment that I ought to have been more engaged, that I should have reached out to you more frequently, made more calls, or dropped by unexpectedly as I once did when I would enter the kitchen for a slice of apple while you were baking. I was uncertain about how to support you without your prompting. You never inquired. A familiar ache stirred within me, a subtle yet persistent discomfort that I had grown accustomed to amidst the day's tasks and the evening's chores. I was uncertain, I replied. Requesting assistance seemed akin to confessing my inability to maintain composure. I have consistently presented myself as the individual who has everything under control, even in moments when that was not the case. He offered a faint smile, tinged with sadness and warmth. Indeed, he remarked that you were the individual in question. I believe that aspect has been passed down to me. The candle's flame danced gently, sending a delicate ribbon of smoke upward before it dissipated into the air. I extended my hand toward the small glass of water I had been nursing and nudged it closer to the candle to extinguish the flame, then hesitated. Allow it to extinguish naturally, I remarked. It resonates well. We lingered in the gentle ticking within the dim glow. Outside, the world had succumbed to the deep darkness of late autumn, with the windows transforming into black reflective surfaces, rendering the kitchen a mirror of its own essence. He shifted in his chair, leaning forward with his elbows resting on the table, reminiscent of the times I would reprimand him for that behavior in his youth. I remained silent at this moment. Allow the elbows to remain in place. Allow the regulations to take a break. Larry mentioned, here's the other part. At times, I experience fear. I have consistently taken the initiative to resolve issues rather than merely identifying them. I feared that I might lose you to the business you wield as a shield. There may come a day when I visit, and you will feel like a stranger to me, as grief often transforms those we hold dear into unfamiliar faces. I hesitated to voice that thought, as it seemed that speaking it aloud might somehow bring it to reality. My breath began to deepen and steady. His voice carried no accusation, merely a straightforward human truth he had long kept folded and tucked away. I reflected on the countless occasions when I had filled the silence with checklists, recounting my days as if they were mere inventories. Meetings, errands, scrubbing the stove, renewing insurance, clearing leaves from the gutter, and scheduling the dental appointment I had postponed twice. I had been recounting a life of action, yet had I adequately expressed the essence of a life steeped in emotion? I would like to share something with you, I stated. He gave a slight nod. I experienced fear as well, not from you. I began to fade into the realm of the practical. It was more reassuring to maintain control rather than to appear vulnerable. and I feared that if I invited you to share a cup of tea or assist with the pantry hinge, you might glimpse the tender aspects I prefer to keep hidden. The remnants that continue to evoke memories of your father linger in the scent of his cologne on a cherished old scarf. The segments that focus on the vacant chair at the table's end, absorbing the laughter of jokes that went untold this evening. I was hesitant to pass that to you and request your assistance in carrying it. "Mom," he said, his voice steady yet soft, "I want to bury what is rightfully mine." Something shifted, if only slightly, and I sensed as though a window had been ajar in a musty room. Not a surge of fresh air, but the initial whisper of it. I came to the understanding that I had been anticipating those precise words, albeit unconsciously. Larry grasped his glass and took a sip before placing it down, his finger following the water ring it had created, mirroring the way I had traced circles on the table with the towel. He added, his gaze remaining fixed on the circle, "There's one more thing. I have been consulting with someone regarding my stress levels. It's not a major issue. I simply wish to engage with an expert to express my feelings without transforming them into a structured plan or task. I refrained from sharing this information to prevent any unnecessary concern on your part." A wave of emotion surged within me, intertwining pride and relief. "I appreciate you sharing that with me," I replied. "I'm pleased to hear that you attended. It has been beneficial," he stated. This experience has illuminated the understanding that perfection is not a prerequisite for presence, and that at times what you seek from me may not be a solution. A chair is drawn out at the table, and an hour passes without my phone. I chuckled then, a genuine, soft laugh, the sort that caught me off guard with its comforting warmth. "Precisely," I responded. "A brief interlude of 1 hour, perhaps extending to 2, devoid of your phone. I will include dessert as an incentive." He inclined his head, offering a complete smile this time. "Dessert and gifts," he remarked. "That is an excellent trade." The candle extinguished at last with a gentle sigh. We observed the delicate tendril of smoke spiral upward and fade away. The room appeared dimmer in its absence, exuding a sense of authenticity, as though the night had at last made its entrance instead of merely lingering at the door. I stood to rinse our glasses, and he stood as well, handing me the towel in silence. We collaborated closely, not amidst the hurried chaos of a cleanup, but in the calm, deliberate pace of 2 individuals who had placed something substantial aside. As the final plate was carefully arranged, we made our way into the living room. The couch exhibited a slight sag in its familiar spot. The throw blanket was folded in the uneven manner that I tend to use when fatigue sets in. He sat first, then patted the cushion next to him. The lamp illuminated a soft amber glow upon the rug, a light that softens the imperfections of the floorboards and allows a home to reveal its true essence. "I found something," he said, reaching for the old wooden box on the low shelf of the coffee table. My husband's box, the one with a little brass latch. He opened it with great care, as though the hinge were crafted from memories long gone. Within, the letters rested in their customary arrangement, secured by a ribbon that had faded over time. "Or..." He extended the letter towards me, and I accepted it, my fingers gliding over the recognizable slant of the handwriting, the loops reminiscent of the waves on a beach we had once explored together. I carefully revisited the paragraph, taking my time. I could hear my husband's voice in the words, the way he would laugh at himself and smooth over the rough edges of a difficult day by referring to it as a good story in the making. I believe he would want us to proceed with this, Larry stated. To communicate in this manner, to craft a narrative from the challenging moments as they unfold. I placed the letter gently on my lap. He would, I stated. He consistently held the conviction that one should name the object of their fear. Unspoken secrets can weigh heavily if you don't bring them to the surface and examine them in the light of day. Larry reclined and exhaled gently, releasing a measured breath. He stated, "Here's one more I need to set down." And I found myself bracing without intending to. I'm considering relocating, just a short distance across town. This opportunity allows me to reside nearer to my workplace, and I can secure a residence that offers a touch of tranquility. I preferred not to share this during dinner with everyone present. I intended for it not to come across as if I were departing from you. The term leaving resonated throughout the room, finding its place in every corner. The sensation of it resonated within my chest. For a prolonged moment, I remained silent, not out of anger or pain, but in pursuit of clarity for my emotions. I gazed at him. His meticulous posture, his inviting expression, the manner in which he presented the news, as if it were a fragile dish he feared might shatter. I appreciate you sharing this with me. I appreciate your confidence in me regarding the matter at hand. Create a life that aligns with your true self. I wish for you to experience the tranquility that eluded you at 10, amidst the lively presence of cousins and the delightful chaos of the household. Embrace a lifestyle where each morning unfolds as a fresh start rather than a mere duty. His shoulders relaxed ever so slightly. I was concerned that you might interpret the sounds of movement as abandonment. I had heard it. I expressed my sincerity to the best of my ability. For a moment, I did, but then I recalled your earlier remarks regarding presence. Your relocation does not negate that fact. It simply requests that we act with intention. He reiterated with intention. That is an excellent choice of word. We can claim Sundays as our own, I declared, without exception each week. We prepare a straightforward dish. We gather in silence, free from our devices. We select a letter from the box and share a narrative about the week that transcends responsibilities. A narrative detailing our observations. Presence expands intentionally. His eyes glimmered in the soft glow of the lamplight as he gave a nod. I would appreciate that. I would greatly appreciate that. Good, I remarked, and sensed a sense of steadiness emerge. On moving day, I will arrive equipped with tape and labels, determined to mark one box as kitchen happiness. You may roll your eyes, but I will proceed regardless. He chuckled, the sound effortless and genuine. Agreed, but only if you also label another box for Sunday letters. It is complete, I stated. We conversed as individuals do after an unexpected journey, softly and with gratitude, relieved to have reached a destination that resembled a welcoming porch light. He shared details about the apartment he had visited, describing how the afternoon sunlight streamed across the floorboards and the cozy nook by the window that would be perfect for reading. I shared with him my interest in the volunteer program at the library, specifically the initiative where retirees engage in reading sessions with children after school. We exchanged plans as if they were cherished recipes, sharing them back and forth until they evoked a sense of home. At one moment, he reached for the throw blanket and wrapped it around my knees, just as I used to do for him when the cartoons dragged on and his toes grew chilly. The balance of it pressed against my throat. I took a deep breath and accepted the situation as it unfolded, with care flowing in both directions. "Mum," he said after a moment, his voice dropping, "about those words I mentioned at the table. I am not prepared to depart at this time. I believe I was referring to something beyond just this evening. I meant that I am not prepared to depart from this manner of being with you, genuine, without the facade of busyness. I prefer not to revert to a phase where we merely share updates. I would like us to retain this." I turned and met his gaze, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I sensed the familiar bond between us, mother and son, not merely fulfilling our roles, but as two individuals capable of sharing a space where the truth could be uncomplicated. "I concurred," I replied. "Let us retain it." We remained in that stillness until the lamp's light appeared to wane, and the hour advanced to a point where even our silence felt as though slumber was starting to envelop us. When he finally rose, he did not exhibit the half-hearted stance of someone eager to make a swift departure. He stood with a calm assurance, fully aware that he could return tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, not out of necessity, but out of desire. At the door, he halted and glanced back, reminiscent of how individuals often capture a moment in their minds. I observed him noticing the small details: the shoes positioned by the mat, the umbrella resting in the corner, the ribbon still tied around the letters on the coffee table. He extended his hand toward the knob, then turned to me and remarked, "One more thing. I hold deep affection for you. It's not the casual 'I love you' bye, exchanged over the phone while we're both on the road. The type that I fully comprehend. The words settled upon me, calm and measured, without haste. Indeed, I reciprocate those feelings," I replied. "The type you are referring to." He nodded, and then proceeded into the hallway, where the colder air intertwined with the warmth. I observed him descend the stairs, calm and unhurried. Then I softly closed the door and rested my forehead against it for a moment of reflection. The house was silent once more, yet it was far from vacant. The silence took on a fresh form, reminiscent of a space reconfigured to welcome additional illumination. I returned to the living room, picked up the wooden box, and selected a letter at random. I have not opened it. I cradled it in both hands, akin to how one cherishes a promise that has finally been articulated. Later in bed, I gazed at the subtle haze of the ceiling and attuned myself to the delicate noises a house emits as it settles into the stillness of midnight. I reflected on the evolution of love through the years, how it once manifested as a hand supporting a bicycle seat, later transformed into a casserole placed on a doorstep, and tonight it is encapsulated in a sentence shared in a kitchen as a candle flickers and melts away. I am not prepared to depart at this time. I finally realized that the surprising aspect of the evening was not a hidden explosion in the shadows. It embodied a quality that was both tender and courageous. The readiness to address the subtly challenging matters while there remains an opportunity to act on them. I turned onto my side, observing the strip of streetlight dancing along the curtain in the gentle draft. Tomorrow, I plan to send him a picture of the squeaky pantry hinge and inquire if he'd like to come over on Sunday to fix it. He'll arrive with a can of oil and will engage in light-hearted banter about the label maker before enjoying something sweet and reading a letter aloud. We would practice gifts as one learns a new instrument, initially clumsy, yet gradually transforming into something beautiful, with subtle enhancements that only the two of you can appreciate. Prior to the arrival of sleep, I allowed myself to revisit the kitchen, where 2 glasses awaited, accompanied by the gentle wisps of smoke from a candle that had fulfilled its purpose. I observed us from above, a mother and her adult son, lingering beyond their initial intentions, realizing that often the most unexpected words are those that do not shatter a life, but rather weave it together